Hey, welcome back. I'm over here in a big pile of crap. Sorry the videos haven't been coming too frequently. I've been busy. I've had, I'm not going to make many excuses, but there are reasons. One of which is family obligations. I've had to work for 2 weekends, which were supposed to be free and available when I wasn't working my normal job. I've had to work 2 weekends fixing my daughter's car, basically all of her suspension. Ball joints, control arms, tie rod, sway bar ties, and all her struts and springs the whole way around, and bearings too. Yeah. Anyways, so that occupied that, and I also ran with my wife to the Speed Steel Challenge for the youth out in Columbus, Ohio. And then, honestly, most of my time has been taken up with my daily work, which is carpentry. I've been working away from home on a cabin, and here I am. But today I want to talk about some of the things that are required in order to hunt pretty much in every state. I would encourage you to stick around for the safety aspect of hunting with firearms and bows and stuff like that. But as you can see, I probably got some work to do. If you'll bear with me, just give me a few minutes and I'll get things straightened up. Welcome back. Hey, how you like the set? This is actually 2 days later after I made that thing. The day I was making it, my daughter wanted to go for a car ride, so I took her for a car ride. She just wanted to visit and chit chat. What we're watching, or what you're watching now, is the second video in this How to Hunt series, and I want to go over just a general outline of what I'm going to do during this video series. It's fairly extensive. It's based off of a curriculum that I use to teach new hunters. And in general, what we'll go over, which is part of today and then the other video series, is regulations and safety concerns, just a general overview of something that's honestly kind of mundane, but very, very important. And then we'll talk about weapons choices, size, caliber, style, and stuff like that. If you've never hunted before or you're going to start and you want to buy a weapon of some sort, we'll go over where I think you should start, what considerations you should think about, and then different styles and actions. And then we'll get into how to set that rifle up. It'll look very similar. When we're done, it'll look very similar to this simple working man's rifle. I don't think that we should spend, or you should spend, a whole lot of money to get into this at first. What I've got is a very simple system with very accurate rifles that are made today that are very durable, that shoot very well. And then we'll get into animal habits, locations, their defenses, how to get close to them so you can kill them. Talk about some equipment. We'll get into how to close the distance on animals when you're still hunting. Remember, most of this video series is going to teach you that, a still hunting skill. Ways you can practice still hunting, ways you can practice shooting, and then personal safety and how you're going to plan the hunt. And that is going from a large scale view all the way down to a specific area and specific terrain that you need to get into and scout. We'll go through all that stuff. But today, I'll talk about hunting history and regulations in the United States, and then get into some weapon safety. All right, a lot of you have probably heard that America is the greatest country on earth, and it is, I believe so. But what people don't talk about often is what made it the greatest. There was a combination of a bunch of things. Number one, honestly, we're young. And we learned from a lot of the mistakes of our predecessors not to destroy all of our natural resources. Number two, we are blessed, and make no mistake about it, we are blessed to be the greatest country in the world because of the land where we're positioned. This is a very rich soil and a very rich area of this hard rock to be on. Most of us that are here today watching this video should be humbled by that. The fact that you are here on this rock, in this place of fertility, and enjoying these benefits really is just a blessing. When I popped out of my mom, I really did nothing special to be blessed to be on this place. I'm just happy to be blessed. I've seen a lot of places where people aren't. Okay, enough of that. We came onto the eastern seaboard mostly out of Europe and wiped out all the timber, and pretty much all the game that was edible in that territory got wiped out or depleted. And then we started moving west, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with the story of the buffalo. At the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, Theodore Roosevelt and some other conservationists started to appreciate what we had and wanted to conserve it. At that point, they started to enforce some strict regulations on how much game was taken. That has bled over into today. Now, the resources, if you can think of Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir, if you weren't familiar with that story, that is the period of time where a lot of the national parks and national forests and state forests were formed. The land had been, in the East, the land had been, for lack of a better term, raped. Everything was taken off of it. The companies, the large companies that owned it, kind of let it go to waste. In my state of Pennsylvania, it started to create a bunch of wildfires. The federal government came in and bought up what's known as the Allegheny National Forest, that forest system, and then the state government came in and bought what's known as the state forest. At the same time, not just the land, but the animals had started to be considered public resources. That's all the public, the hunting and non-hunting public. Most of your game species are regulated by the state government, and then there are some that are protected or regulated by the federal government. Mostly it depends on where they reside. A white-tailed deer has got a range of about a doe has about a 1 square mile area, and buck have about 3 to 5. That animal is not going to migrate, from the Canadian border to the Mexico border. However, waterfowl do migrate. So you have waterfowl that are regulated by the federal government, and each state enforces federal government rules and stuff like that. If you're new to hunting, you may not recognize that what you're about to get into is a highly regulated sport, and it's regulated for the benefit of everybody else in the United States that's living in this rich country. Now, game species, so you have game species and non-game species. Of the game species, it's broken down into 2 more, and that would be big game and small game. So big game would be like turkey, bear, elk, moose, bison. Those are big game. And then small game would be like squirrels, rabbits, ducks, grouse, stuff like that. Each of them are regulated differently with different seasons based on populations, breeding, and everything else. So if you're new to hunting, you need to know that your state regulates the taking and killing of that game to manage populations. When I've taught new hunters in my courses, it's honestly not known, not understood that you just don't go out and shoot. You don't just go out and shoot whatever you want. You can't, because it's regulated, and each state regulates it differently. So I can't give just one explanation of how all 50 states manage their game. The fact that it's confusing and regulated in several states is frustrating for some people, but it's highly regulated, and it's your job to know those laws and regulations. You have to know those. So you have to go through, pretty much every state nowadays has a formal education program. Back when I was in 5th or 6th grade, my state, actually my school, this is cool shit back then. I don't do it now, but my state my state required a hunter education course. My school
gave that hunter education course as a club to all, I think it was 6th or 7th grade students and up. Whatever you are when you're 11, I think that's 6th grade, right? Because at the age of 12, you could start hunting in Pennsylvania. So my school came in different times. We had a hunter ed club. So back in 1986, 85, I went through and took the state's hunter ed course in school. Great. It's awesome. You can't do that anymore. The instructors, Mr. Patterson, Melring, Lewis, they all brought in traps and guns, showed us action, styles, and everything else that's required by the state for you to be educated. There's a lot of information usually in your state's education course. You have to take it if you want to get a license. Most likely in your state, you have to take it. A lot of times nowadays it's on the internet. You're going to have to look that up. Just do an internet search and start poking around. Usually you'll go to the state's Department of Fish and Wildlife. Some states, if they're old colonial states, they call them commissions or game commissions. You might also Department of Wildlife Resources, so DWR, DFW. And then you need to sign up for a class very quickly and familiarize yourself with your state's regulations, and then find out what their calendar year is. Find out when the licenses go on sale. Find out when if they're going to sell tags by species, so like a buck and a doe. Find out when each of those go on sale and become very familiar with whatever state that you want to hunt in. When you have a hunter education course in one state, it transfers to other states. So take it now, okay? That's it. Okay, what I want to talk about now is just general safety. All right. People who have never served in the military or anything like that, often are afraid of guns. It's a little bit misguided. This thing is meant to spit out a projectile at a high velocity. That projectile is meant to hit and destroy tissue and stop cellular respiration and cause death. Nothing to be afraid of, but something to be cognizant of. Now, I have seen things that are weapons that people don't think are very lethal, and they become very injured with those, whether that be a knife or a broadhead or anything like that. What may not be a high-powered rifle still may be very lethal. All right. Careless handling or use of that weapon is what causes injury and possible death. I got to go through this. I did not, until I started to create this video specifically, I didn't think about how much second-hand anecdotes I have as far as accidents that killed or accidents that wounded through careless or horseplay with guns. You have to get your mind right about what you got in your hand and what it can do. One slip of a knife in an area where you can't stop the bleeding, you're screwed. It's not just guns, it's anything that can cause bleeding that causes cellular death. So this is going to be a second-hand, actually first-hand at first, evidence of how weapons can injure. And the first would be knives. I don't have anything to show you up close, but I have probably cut myself while hunting. I've cut myself twice, at least, while hunting and gutting or skinning an animal. Once was pretty bad in the state of Colorado. The rest of mine are usually from work. I pretty much cut myself on every job just somehow. As a matter of fact, I did it making this curtain. I drilled through that thing and was shuffling it around, and a metal burr caught me and cut the tip of my finger. Irritating. And then I had another cutting incident, secondhand knowledge. I'm just going to call it a family member. I had a family member who was archery hunting. Two of them were archery hunting together. They saw a buck and they were moving around. We were young. They were moving around and they went to turn to talk to the other family member. And when he did that, he turned back around to look back at the buck. And in that movement, he had taken a broadhead across the top of his hand and cut himself open good. enough to scare our mother to death. That's about all I know about broadheads and knives. The next one's going to deal with guns. The first would be another family member when he was very young, was set up on a deer stand, got bored, saw some dust on his trigger, and didn't check his safety, was cleaning that trigger, and the rifle went off. Luckily, no one was around. He didn't have it. He had it pointed in a safe direction, but had it not been, that could have been bad. I know somebody else that was unloading a gun. This gun was, found out later on that this gun was notorious for having a safety malfunction. Was unloading the gun, and in order to do that, had to work the bolt, the safety malfunction, and the gun went off. If it was pointed in an unsafe direction, it would have hurt somebody. I had another neighbor when I was a kid. His sister was unloading a lever action, the Model 94, and a lot of the lever actions are difficult to unload. You got to cycle them. Her finger hit the trigger and kablooey. She put a round between his feet. Could have been dangerous. Okay, you're gonna find out I've been around guns my whole life. I've got a lot of stories. It was amazing to me, but there was another neighbor who was walking up on another neighbor during hunting season. That neighbor slipped and fell, and when he did, the gun, at least this is the story I heard, the gun went off and shot the other guy. It covers my childhood, right? And then I went in the military where people were messing with weapons all the time. And the first one I remember was a squad leader. He was cleaning his weapon or messing around with a pistol. This happens frequently. You have to think. He ended up cycling the action, dropping the mag, and then dropping the hammer, just like this, dropping the hammer to clear that gun. Well, he had one step out of sequence. He should have dropped the magazine, cycled the action, then dropped the hammer. What happened was his sequence of the opposite ended up putting a round in the chamber. When he dropped it, he shot his hand. Obviously, that didn't work out well. There was another guy in the mortar squad. He was clearing a pistol in his room, and he shot the brick wall when that thing went off, or cinder block wall, when that went off, and made a big puck mark, and obviously probably scared the crap out of him in that room. There were guys training for CQB. You do a bunch of iterations with live rounds, then blank rounds, and live rounds, and blank rounds, then day, then night, and you go through a bunch of iterations. Two guys forgot to check a weapon, and there was basically an accident call it whatever. It was an accident, but they were clearing rooms, and during blank fire, you have your guys look at you coming into a room, and then they also sometimes will play the opposing force. Somebody didn't check an individual's magazine. He shot, and the round in the blank adapter went into his team leader and killed him during that exercise. I was in National Guard, and after I got off active duty, and there were guys that went to a 50 cal range. They had taken the guns off of the tanks. They were putting them in the back of a 5-ton. Somebody forgot to clear. Usually there's buddy checks. When you're with me, there's buddy checks, and the weapon will often stay with the action open if it's able to. Somebody didn't check, and nobody buddy checked to see if that chamber was empty. They went to load the 50 cal into the truck. Somebody hit the butterflies, and somebody got shot basically through the chest at point blank range with a 50 cal round. Obviously that was a mortality. And then when I was in Iraq, there were often stories, you'd hear stories of people coming in. When you come in through the gate onto an air base or a FOB or whatever, they've got clearing barrels. I don't know how many times I've heard of people clearing a weapon, dropping a hammer, and shooting into that clearing barrel just from fatigue or going through the motions or not paying attention. The point is that anytime you point that at someone,
it has the potential to go off and kill someone. So you have got to handle this weapon around me or others with that in mind. Always treat it as if it's loaded and ready to fire. I've been with some unsafe individuals that I'll not go out with again. You need to respect it, but don't fear it. Respect a weapon, but don't fear them, okay? But treat everyone as if it was loaded. All right, if I haven't spooked you already, there's no reason to, okay? No, I will say I got my research out of this, and this is 35 years old or 36 years old, this information. There's no reason to be afraid. There's every reason to respect this weapon, okay? But they're not what caused the majority of accidents and deaths and fatalities in the United States. Most deaths in the United States that aren't health, that aren't health reasons occur because of vehicles. Vehicular accidents are the #1 causes of death in the United States. Falls is the second leading cause of death in the United States, and then drowning, fires, burns, suffocation, and then firearms, perhaps. It's way down the list. Hunting accidents with rifles is number 16 on the list of sports accidents. So even accidents with guns are way down the list as far as threats or concerns. Like I said, it's number 16, and it certainly is not at the top for deaths by accidents. No reason to be afraid of them, but something to be respected. If there are accidents during hunting, 40% of them are caused by being in the line of fire. Whether somebody shoots and misses an animal and then ends up, Dick Cheneying somebody, whether they're beyond the target or between the target, basically that's in the line of fire. 20% of hunting accidents are actually from an accidental discharge, or nowadays they call them negligent discharges. Okay, 15% are caused by ricochets of bullets or arrows. 5% are caused by guns being in a dangerous position, whether that's leaned up against a vehicle, not stable against a tree, or haphazardly placed on the ground. 10% of accidents are caused by people mistaking a human for a game animal and then shooting. The last 10%, they are caused by stray shots, the hunter falling, dropping a firearm, and defective guns. If you never point the muzzle at anyone or anything you don't intend to kill, it's not going to hurt anyone. At the worst, it'll go off in a direction where it just scares the shit out of everyone around you. That's it. The next video I'm going to talk about how to pick a weapon. What I'm going to then talk about is what type of action. And I will talk about the benefits and disadvantages of each of those when you're still hunting. Okay. I'll get into those items in the next video, and I hope to see you back. If you would, my work schedule, if you saw the beginning of this, or maybe if you saw the YouTube short or the reel, my work schedule's got me very busy. It's been over a month since I've tried to make a video. So if you want to do more of this, or you want to get into this more, go ahead and subscribe and click the bell icon, and I will be back. It will alert you to let you know when my next video is going to be out. But I would love to promise you a schedule, but I can't, because I've got obligations to other projects of my day job, which are, which is because, well, I gotta make money, and this ain't doing squat for me. All right. Thanks for being here. I look forward to seeing you around next time. And don't just sit and watch videos. Go ahead and get out and explore your nature. I'll see you. Okay. I was editing a video and I recognized that I forgot to do something that I wanted to do, and that is recommend a book. I'll try to do this fairly often. I've got a fairly extensive library of books and magazines and stuff I've read since I was a teenager. And the first book I want to recommend is Robert Ruark, The Old Man and the Boy. This book is good as far as general stories. Robert Ruark is an excellent author. This book in particular goes through a story where a young boy goes every summer to visit his grandpa along the coast. And while he's there, his grandpa teaches him lessons
life lessons based on their experience hunting and fishing. It's a real good book. I recommend reading a book. I'm sure this is on audio, or you can get it as an audio book, but I recommend reading a book because it slows you down and lets you meditate and lets your imagination run a little better than anything else. And that is very good practice for when you're hunting. You need to learn how to slow down, pay attention, and let your imagination kind of take over so you can experience and have more fun while you're doing it. It's a difficult thing this day and age with technology for people to slow down, and I think reading helps that. And slowing down is very helpful when you're hunting, particularly still hunting. So Robert Ruark's The Old Man and the Boy, and I recommend it. And in case you're wondering, if you can see it, this is not blood. I was on a job. This is a day later from the last filming, but I was on a job staining an exterior of a building, and I think I got more on me than the building. But anyways, yeah, get the book, read it. I'll have more. And then I'd also like to recommend a song. I'm big into music as well. Can't play a lick of it, can't sing a lick of it, but I like to listen to it. And the song Motel Room, I'll put a link in the bottom. No affiliation or anything, I just enjoy it. It's an interesting song with a quirky video. But all right, thanks for coming back. Thanks for sticking around. Again, do all the things you're supposed to do on YouTube. Thank you. Bye.